Okay, we're holding over here on Daf Tes Zayin Amud Aleph. We're down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the top by the 2 dots. And the Gemara is quoting over here the statement that we made in the Mishnah. The Mishnah said the following: Hakari lemafreya. If a person reads the verses of the Shema out of order, lo yatsa, they don't fulfill their obligation. And then the Mishnah said, Kara v'ta'a, a person read and they made a mistake. Yachsu l'makam shita, they should return to the place where they made the mistake, so they can go further from there to make sure they're not missing any of the words or the letters from the Shema. So the Gemara says the following: Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Asi, Havakoyim Katrin le Genanud Rabbi Elazar. So Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi apparently were chuppah makers, and they were making a chuppah for the wedding of Rabbi Elazar. So Rabbi Elazar sees that the chuppah is being taken care of, and he says, "Adhachi v'hachi, ezel ve'eshma milsa debei midrasha." While you're busy making my chuppah, I'm going to go to the base midrash, ve'isi ve'ema lechu, and I'll learn something over there, and then I'll come back and I'll tell you what they said. Azel ashkeche letana dekatani kamei de Rabbi Yochanan. So he walked into the base midrash. This Rabbi Elazar, I guess, on the day of his chasana. That's how a chassan spends his wedding day. He's in the base midrash learning. And he sees that they're telling over the following statement to Rav Yochanan. And the statement was the following: Kara v'ta'a ve'eni yodei lahechanta. A person was reading the Shema, and he made a mistake. Ve'eni yodei, he doesn't know lahechanta, where exactly that mistake was. So the Gemara says the following: that if it was be'emsa perek, if it was in the middle of a paragraph of the Shema, then Yachzor, and I'm looking at the words on the side of the page over there, Yachzor l'techilas haperek. You should go back to the beginning of that paragraph, because you don't know exactly where it is that you made a mistake. Bein perek leperek, if you made a mistake between one paragraph and the other, which means that you're in between, you don't know which paragraph did I say, which paragraph did I not say. Yachzor leperek rishon, so you go back to the earlier paragraph to make sure that you got that in. Bein ksiva l'ksiva, if you are in the Shema, and there are 2 verses in the Shema that speak about writing a mezuzah, and you're not sure which one did I just say, Yachzor l'ksiva rishayna, you go back to the first verse that speaks about the mezuzah being written, and that way you'll ensure that you said everything there is in the Shema. So Rav Yochanan said, Leishanu ela shelai pasach b'leman yirbu yemechem. When do we say over here that we're mesubik, that we're in doubt whether or not you read everything in the 3rd paragraph of the Shema? That's what he's talking about over here. That's only if you did not yet say the words in the 2nd paragraph of the Shema of the last pasuk, which is Leman Yirbu Yemechem Yemei V'nechem, in order for to increase the days of yourself and the days of your children, Al Adam, on the land of Israel. Because why? Says the Gemara the following: that if you said already that verse, then says the Gemara, Sarche Noka, which means that we assume that since you are so well versed in the last paragraph of the Shema, once that you say that verse, certainly you ended up saying once you ended up saying that last verse of the 2nd paragraph, then for sure you ended up saying the final paragraph as well. And this is the way that Rashi understands. Rashi understands that the last paragraph of the Shema is a parsha shagur befiv, is something that is much more readily available in people's mouths. They're much more accustomed to saying that paragraph. They do it by heart all the time. And therefore, if you said the last verse of the 2nd paragraph, we can assume that you already said the last paragraph as well, and you didn't make any mistakes. If you did not yet say the last verse of that 2nd paragraph, and now you catch yourself in the middle of Shema, you don't know where you are, we'll say go back to the beginning of the 2nd paragraph in order to ensure that you say the 2nd and the 3rd paragraph as well. Says the Gemara, Ve'asi asa. So Rabbi Elazar, the chassan, comes back to Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi, who are making his chuppah for him. V'amar lahu, and he told them this statement that he heard in the base midrash. So Amrulay, they said back to him, if we only would have come here to this place to be able to hear those words of the sages, dayenu, that would have been enough. They held that it was a very important lesson that they learned over there. Okay, weiter, we're going in the Mishnah over here. Umnan, kohen b'rosh ha'ilan, a person that is in the middle of working, and he's in the top of a tree. It comes time to say the Kriya Shema, he should say the Kriya Shema. Uberoish hanidbach, if he's on the top of a wall, he should also say and he's a worker, he should also say the Kriya Shema at the appropriate time. Which we're not allowed to do when it comes to tefillah. And the reason is, Rashi says that if you be a worker and you're in the top of a tree during the time that it's daven Shemona Esrei, Rashi writes that tzlusa rachamehi, davening is rachameh. You're asking mercy from Hashem. Uboy kavana, and you require kavana, you require intention. Hilkach ein mispalalim b'rosh ha'ilan u'b'rosh ha'nidbach. Therefore, you can't daven at the top of a tree or on the top of a wall. The mistafei dilma nafel, because you're going to be afraid while you're davening. Maybe you're going to fall. How long can you stand in the tree? We're afraid you're going to fall. The ein yechalin la'amid sham, you can't stand there. Ela yidei dechak, except for pressing moments. Umachmas b'yisusam, because of the fear that you have, that every second you think while you're standing there davening Shemona Esrei, maybe you're going to fall out of the tree. Leimotzi mikavana, you will not be able to daven b'kavana with intention. So the Mishnah is saying a very interesting thing. When you're standing in the top of a tree and it comes time to say the Shema, you say the Shema. When you're standing on a wall, you're on the top of the wall, it's time to say Shema, say Shema. If you're standing in the top of a tree, on top of a wall, and it comes time to daven Shemona Esrei, you can't daven. Why? Because davening takes a long time, requires kavanah. You're going to be nervous the entire time that you're going to fall. You're not going to daven properly. So does Shema require kavanah? Does it require intention or not? If my concern is I got to have kavanah, I have to have intention while I'm davening, so aren't we concerned then that while you're saying Shema also, you're going to be nervous about possibly falling out of the tree, and therefore you're not going to have the proper kavanah that you need? We'll have to see what it means over here. Says the Mishnah Vaita, Chasan patim mikriya Shema laila rishayna ve'ad moitzei Shabbos. A chasan, a groom who got married. And we spoke about this a little before, and the Gemara will repeat itself also as we see later on. A person that just got married, he is exempt from reciting the Kriya Shema the first night of his chasana, va'ad moitzei Shabbos, until Saturday night. Im lo asa ma'aseh, if he did not do the act of having intimate relations with his wife, and I guess we'll have to say if she was a virgin at this point, so therefore he was much more involved in the ma'aseh mitzvah, in the mitzvah itself. U'ma'aseh b'Rabbi Gamliel shenasa isha. So the Mishnah tells us the story of Rabbi Gamliel, one of the great sages. He got married, v'kar laila rishayna, and lo and behold, he ended up reading the Kriya Shema the first night of his chasana. We just finished saying that a chasan, that a groom, is exempt from reading the Kriya Shema from the first night of his wedding up until Motzei Shabbos.
Only if she's not a virgin.
If she is a virgin. If she is,
then he's exempt.
If she is, as we'll see. Very good. So Rabbi Gamliel, he married this woman, and the first night of the chasana, lo and behold, his talmidim catch him saying Kriya Shema. So Amalo Talmidav, his student said, Lo lematanu Rabbeinu, didn't you teach us shechasim patim mikriya Shema? Aren't you the one who taught us that a chasim, that a groom, that is going to be exempt from reciting the Kriya Shema? So Amar lehem, so he told them, Eini shameya lechem, I'm not going to listen to those statements of Chazal. Levantel heimeni malchus shemayim afilu sha'achas, to be mevantel, to nullify the acceptance of the yoke of heaven for even one moment. So Tosfos over here, Tosfos says that you should know it's not that Rabbi Gamliel in the Mishnah over here was coming to argue on the sages. He wasn't arguing on Chazal. Rather, the Kamash Malan im Gadolhu, if a person is great in their piety, uboiteich ba'atzma, they can trust in themselves, sheyuchal yischaven, and they'll have the ability to be mechaven, to have intention, even though they're exempt. V'hu roi litol es Hashem, and he feels that he's able to say the name of Hashem. Hashem 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 Echad. Harishus biyadai, Rabbi Gamliel was teaching, you're allowed to do such a thing. So the sages came along and said, you're pater, you're exempt. Rabbi Gamliel, because of his ma'aseh over here, said, you're right, you're exempt, but if you feel that you could do it, so then you're going to be allowed to do it. Zok the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis taught us, Ha'umnin, Koirin b'rosh ha'ilan, u'b'rosh ha'nidbach, u'mispalim b'rosh ha'zayis, u'b'rosh ha'te'ena. So this text, this Tosefta that we're bringing down over here says the following, that a worker is allowed to say the Shema when he's on top of a tree. He's allowed to say the Shema when he's on top of a wall. He can even say Shemona Esrei when he's on top of a olive tree or he's on top of a fig tree. But by every other tree, when it comes time to daven, you got to go down from the tree and you have to daven on the ground. Rashi says, Bob, you probably know the answer already, why it is that an olive tree and a fig tree is going to be different. But Rashi says over here, Sha'anofim mirubin. There are a lot of branches in an olive tree and a fig tree. And you're allowed to stand. You're able to stand on that tree, not being squashed or in fear. There's no fear lipo that you're going to fall out of the tree. Therefore, that's why you're allowed to daven on the top of that tree. But by other trees that don't have as many branches, you're not going to be allowed to daven. Okay. Ubalabayis. However, balabayis, which means, these are all workers that we're talking about, but the balabayis, the owner over here, the guy who's got everybody working for him, ben kach u ben kach, yored lamata. Whether he's in the tree of, whether he's in the olive tree or whether he's in other trees, he's got to come down from the tree umispalel, and he has to daven on the ground. Why? Because lemaisa, this person is not required to be in the tree, and he's not going to have the proper intention while he's standing in the tree, and therefore he has an obligation. Since that he doesn't have to work, he's obligated to come down to the ground and daven like a mensch. Ramile Rav Mary Bar the Bas Shmuel. So Mary Bar the Bas Shmuel said LaRava. He said over to Rava, Tanan. We learned Ha'umnin Karim Beroisha Ilan Beroisha Nidbach. We learned that workers, they say Shema in the top of a tree and on top of a wall. Alma loy boy kavana. It sounds like, as we asked in the Mishnah, that when you say Shema, you don't require Kavanah. The reason you can't daven in the tree is because you're going to be afraid you won't be able to have Kavanah, and therefore there's not going to be good davening. But Shema, seemingly, we're not afraid. Say the Shema, not a problem. So you don't need Kavanah, you don't have to have intention when you say Shema, or a mini, but we have a kasha on that, a question. HaKareh Shema, someone who's reading the Shema, like we learned before, he has to have intention in his heart. Shenemar, like it says, Shema Yisrael, says, listen, hear, O Israel, lahalanu omer, haskes, pay attention, ushema Yisrael, and listen, O Israel, ma lahalim be'eskes, just like over there, you have to pay attention, avkam be'eskes, so to over here, when you're saying the Shema, you have to have intention. So how could you say over here that you're allowed to read the Shema on top of a tree? You're not going to have any intention over there. Ishtik. So Rava was silent. It's a good kasha you have on Rava over here. So Rava said, Midi Shemilach Baha is. Did you hear anything else in regards to this halacha over here? So so they said, Hachi Amar Rav Sheshes Shebitelin Mimalachtan V'Korin. So he said that what? We heard such a thing that says, when they are batal, when they stop working, that's when they're going to have to read the Shema. Meaning, if they're in the tree and they're in the midst of working, so we say, no, they can't read the Shema because with the work going on, they're not going to have kavanah. But if they're in the tree and they're going to stop working while they're saying the Shema, then they'll be able to have kavanah, they'll be able to have intention during that time. V'atanya, and we learned in the Brisa, Beis Hillel omrim, oiskim b'malachtan, v'korin. Beis Hillel says, when you're in the midst of working, doing your work, v'korin, you still read Shema. Lo kasha, ha b'perek rishayin, ha b'perek sheni. So the Gemara says, it's not a question. When do we say that you have to stop working in order to say Shema b'kavana? That's talking about the perek rishon. That's talking about the first statement of Shema, Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad, and the first paragraph of the after. But when it comes to the second paragraph or the third paragraph of the Shema, where we don't require the same amount of kavanah, the same amount of intention as the first one, then you could even be working in the tree while you're saying the Shema. Kavanah is not, intention is not a necessity in that case. You have these workers doing their job by the balabayis, by the master of the house, by the owner of this company. Koren Kriya Shema, they're allowed to say Kriya Shema, Umavarchin lefanel lachareh, and they say the brachas before and afterwards. V'oichlin piton, and they can also have a meal. They can eat their pita, Umavarchin lefanel leachareh, and they make the brachas of Hamaitzi beforehand, and I guess they wash their hands as well, and they'll make the birchas hamazon afterwards. Umispalin tefillah shel Shmoneh Esrei, and they also daven the Shmoneh Esrei. Aval ein yordin lifnei hateva, but they're not allowed to be the shliach sibor and lead davening. Ve'noisik kapein, if they're kohanim, they cannot do nesias kapaim. They can't do the priestly blessing over there. Says Rashi, What is the pshat in this case over here? Why is it that in some cases they are allowed to do everything, even though they're on the owner's dime, and the other times they're not allowed to do it? So he writes, because when it comes to going down and leading the davening, says Rashi that eino meshubed lemalacha, I'm sorry, the wrong one. Rashi says over here. Rashi says sheyesham bitum malacha yosem midai. In order, again, the Gemara is saying over here, you're allowed to stop working in order to do all of these things. That's part of your job. If you're working, it's understood that you have to daven, you got to eat like a mensch, you have to say brachas, you're working for a yid. So he understands these are all part of the job. But when it comes to go into shul to lead the davening, that already Rashi says over here, bitul malacha yosem midai, that's too much exemption from your work. You're taking off too much time out of the day, and therefore you're not going to be allowed to do that. Okay, so the first statement over here is all these things you're allowed to do. Aviyatanya me'ein yudches amar Rav Sheshes, but Rav Sheshes said you can't daven the entire Shemona Esrei over here. You can only daven me'ein yudches, a me'ein, which is a portion of the yudches. Now this is really a Gemara later on in Daf Chavches, which we're going to get there be'ez Hashem. And the Gemara over there talks about what is the obligation of Shemona Esrei. And you have a machlekes over there between Rav Sheshes and you have a machlekes of Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yoshua, as we're going to see. One opinion is that you have to daven all of Shemona Esrei. Everybody has to daven all of Shemona Esrei. And one is that you don't have to daven the entire Shemona Esrei. It's called Me'ein Yudches, which is an abridged version of what the Shemona Esrei is going to be. So this Rav Sheshes is saying that you have to daven only Yudches. You can only daven the 18. You can only daven the abridged version of the Shemona Esrei. You can't daven at all. So seems to be a kasha, seems to be a question over here. We just finished saying you can daven all of Shemona Esrei. So lo kasha, not a question. Hi, Rabbi Gamliel. Hi, Rabbi Yoshua. And that is that, as we'll see, that Rabbi Gamliel, Rashi says over here, hi Rabbi Gamliel, hi Rabbi Yeshua. The Name Perek Tfilas HaShachar is going to learn later on Daf Chavches. Rabbi Gamliel Omer Bechol Yom VeYom Yispal Adam Yudches Brachas. Every day a person has to daven the regular Shemona Esrei. Rabbi Yeshua Omer Me'ein Yudches. No, you don't have to daven the regular Shemona Esrei every day. Even the shortened version, that is good enough. So you have again, Rabbi Gamliel says all 18. Rabbi Yeshua says the Me'ein, the shortened version. So says the Gemara over here. Rabbi Yeshua. If you want to learn that it's like Rabbi Yoshu holds that you only daven the Yudches, that you only daven the shortened version, if you want to learn Rabbi Yeshua, my area payalim, why then is the Brisa telling us a case of workers can take off from working to daven the shortened version? Afilu kol adam nami. According to Rabbi Yeshua, everybody only has to daven a shortened version of the Shemona Esrei. So I don't need to teach me a special halacha over here that if you're a worker, you can stop working in order to say the shortened version. Every person is obligated only in the shortened version. El Rabbi Gamliel. Rather, both cases, the Brisa and the Tosef that we said is all going according to Rabbi Gamliel. And Rabbi Gamliel is the one who says that you have to daven the entire Shemona Esrei. Well, like kasha, not a question. Kan ba'osim b'scharan. Over here, when do we say that a person is going to? We'll see. Over here, when do we say that a person only davens the shortened version of the Shemona Esrei, even according to Rabbi Gamliel over here? That's when you are getting paid and you're also getting your meal supplied for you. Kan ba'osim b'schar, kan, in the case where you're allowed to daven the entire Shemona Esrei, ba'osim b'sudas, and you're working only for your meal. So when you are working for money, so you have much more obligations to the owner, and therefore you can't take off as much time from your work. So therefore we say you're only obligated to daven a shortened version of the Shemona Esrei. But when you work and you're bartering your work for the food, so then in that case, says the Gemara, you'd be allowed to take off more time from your work, and you could go and you could daven like a mensch, and you could say all of the Yudches, all the 18 brachas of the Shemona Esrei. Tanya, we learned in the Brisa. If you have workers that are doing their work by the balabayis, by the owner, Karan Kriya Shema, Umispalin va'oichlin piton, they say Kriya Shema, they daven, they eat their pita, they eat their bread, their meal. However, ve'ein mevarchim lefaneh, they don't make a bracha on the bread beforehand. But they do make 2 brachas of Birchas Hamazon afterwards. Now we know that there's really 4 brachas in the Birchas Hamazon, and this guy's only allowed to make 2. And we know that normally you have to wash your hands and you have to make the bracha of Hamaitzi beforehand, but this guy's not allowed to. What's the pshat? So Rashi says over here, the pshat is that since that the washing of your hands and Hamaitzi is not a bracha deraisa, it's not a Torah obligation. Therefore, it's only midrabanan. We say that you're not allowed to waste the owner's time. But when it comes to the Birchas Hamazon afterwards, which is deraisa, which is a Torah obligation, therefore you're going to be obligated to say it. But still, the Gemara says you're not allowed to say the entire Birchas Hamazon, the entire benching. So Ketzad. So how do you do it then? Bracha Rishayna Kitikuni. You say the first blessing of the Birchas Hamazon, of the benching, the way that it's written. Shniya Paisech beBirchas Haaretz, v'Koilin B'nei Yerushalayim beBirchas Haaretz. And then says the Gemara, you start off with the second bracha, but then you include into there the blessing of B'nei Yerushalayim, which is the rebuilding of Israel and the rebuilding of Jerusalem, and that's how you end up getting only 2 brachas where there really should be 3. Or 4, because they added a 4th bracha as well. Says the Gemara, what are we talking about over here? It's talking about when you are working for money. That's when you have to do everything abridged. But if you're only bartering your work for the sake of getting a meal, or even if you're working for money, but the balabayis, the owner, sits down with you to break bread and have the meal with you, then then you are going to make the blessings on the benching, the grace after meals, ketikuna, the way that you normally would, and also with the brachas beforehand as well. Okay. That's the story over there of the workers in the workers in the tree and the workers with their balabais. Now the Gemara goes back to the other part of the Mishnah. Chasen is pater mikriya shema. A chasen, a bridegroom, he just got married. He's pater from saying the kriya shema the first night of his chasana, and we said until Motzei Shabbos till Saturday night, if he did not yet complete Ma'aseh Bia, the act of having relations with his wife. Tanu Rabbanan, it says, and we learned this previously, when you're sitting in your house, that's when you have to say Shema, Prat La'isik b'mitzvah. That comes to exclude the case of a mitzvah, meaning that if you're in the midst of a mitzvah, you don't have to say the Shema. Uvalech l'chavadech, when you're going on the way, you're obligated to say the Kriya Shema. Prat l'chasen, it's coming to exclude a chasen, a groom, on the night of his chasana. Mikan amru, from here we learn ha'kainis es a besula, someone who marries a besula, a virgin. Potter, he's exempt from saying the Kriya Shema because he's busy, we said, trying to fulfill the mitzvah with his wife. But if he marries a widow who already is no longer a virgin, therefore the job that he has to do on the night of the chasana is not the same as with a virgin, therefore he's still going to be obligated to say the Shema. Says the Gemara, my mashma. How do you hear from this? From these verses that we're quoting, that if a person is Isaac, if they're involved in a mitzvah, that they're going to be pater, they're going to be exempt from saying the Shema. So Amrav Papa, ki derech, because it says over here, v'derech, when you go on the derech, on the way. Ki derech, ma derech rishus, just like the word derech is indicative of rishus when you're going to do something for your pleasure, because whatever it's by choice, av hachanami rishus. So too over here, when does the Torah say that you're obligated to Shema? When you are in the midst of doing a rishus, when you're in the midst of doing something for yourself, then you stop. Milay askinon the ka'azal dvar mitzvah. I asked the Gemara, no, maybe it's talking about a dvar mitzvah over here. Maybe when it says ubelech lecha v'derech in the pasuk about Shema, it means when you're going on the way to do a mitzvah. How do you know it's talking about doing a rishus, something that you want to do? Says the Gemara. And still the Torah tells us, even when you're in the midst of a mitzvah, you have to read the Shema. In Cain, layman beleches. Then the Torah should have said beleches, in the way. My belechlecha, what does it mean? In your way. Shema mina beleches dircha, in your way. When you're doing what you want to do, you have to stop and you have to say the Shema. Had the mitzvah, when you're doing a mitzvah, petiras, then you're going to be exempt from saying the Shema. If that's the case, why are you telling us only that a man who marries a basula, a virgin, he's the one that's going to be exempt from saying the Shema? Even when he marries an almana, a widow, he's still doing a mitzvah of getting married over here. So he's in the midst of a mitzvah, so he should be exempt from saying the Shema. Almana hachanami. Tarid, over here also he's going to be involved in the mitzvah. I'm sorry. Almana nami, by the almana, he's also doing a mitzvah. Therefore, he should be exempt from saying Shema. So the Gemara says, hacha, over here by the case of the virgin. So tarid, so his mind is busy making sure that he does the mitzvah in the right way. V'hacha leitarid, but over here by the almana, where he doesn't have to break the hymen and fulfill that obligation. Therefore, his mind is not as tarid. His mind is not as involved in this mitzvah, and therefore, since his mind is free and he's not as involved, he has the ability, the Yishuv Adas, he has the peace of mind to be able to say the Shema. If you want to tell me, you remember this Gemara that we just learned. If you want to tell me the reason that he's exempt over here when he's marrying the virgin is because his mind is preoccupied with the mitzvah. So even if his boat is drowning in the sea, Nami, we should say that he's going to be exempt from saying the Shema. He's certainly torrid. He's certainly preoccupied with the loss of his boat and all of his possessions. Alama, Amar Rabbi Abba bar Zavda, Amar Rav, Ovel Chai B'chol Mitzvahs. So why did Rabbi Abba bar Zavda, Amar Rav, say the following? Ovel Chai B'chol Mitzvahs, a person who is in mourning is obligated to keep all of the mitzvahs, Hamuras B'Torah, that are written in the Torah, Chutz min tefillin, except for the mitzvah of tefillin, Shai Ne'emar Behem Pe'er, because it says by tefillin, they are the glory of a person. Shenemar Pe'er, Pe'ercha Chavush Alecha, your glory is on you. And we said that in Oval before. We said, Rashi says they're in a state of mourning, they have ash on their forehead, and therefore it's not appropriate to put the glory of the tefillin on their heads. But if the whole thing is about tirda, is about being preoccupied, so how can you tell me that an Oval is going to be obligated to say the Shema? He's certainly preoccupied with his mourning over there. So whatever preoccupation of a mitzvah a person has, they should be obligated. They should be exempt from saying the Shema. So therefore, the Gemara says, Amri Hasam Tirda the Rishus, over there by the Oval, even though that he's mourning, it's not a mitzvah to be preoccupied with the mourning and take your mind off of the other mitzvahs. Over here, hacha tirda the mitzvah, but over here by the chasen, on the night of his chasana, when he's marrying a virgin, over there his mind is absorbed in the preoccupation of a mitzvah, and therefore he's going to be exempt from saying the Shema. Weiter, the Mishnah says the following: Rachatz laila harishayin shemesa ishtay. So we're going back again in Rabbi Gamliel, who was in the previous Mishnah, and it says over here the following: his wife died. It was the first night after she died. Apparently she died during the day, and now it's the nighttime over here. And we find that he's rachatz laila rishon. He's washing himself. He's washing himself even in hot water over here, which we know, as the Gemara, the Mishnah says. So again, rachatz laila rishon shemeisa ishta. He's washing himself in the hot water the night that his wife died. Amrlo Talmidav, his student said to him, Loi l'madatanu Rabbeinu, didn't you teach us, Rabbi Gamliel, she'avel is asel lirchaitz? Aren't you the one who taught us that in Oval, that a person who's in a state of mourning is not allowed to wash? So Amar lehem, Eini kashav b'nei adam, I'm not like everybody else. Yeah, Istanis ani, I am a very delicate, finicky type of a person. I have a very gentle disposition. I cannot handle being dirty. Rashi says, what is an istanis? He says, American. No, he says, Ani v'hu adam ma'unig u'mafunig. I am an istanis. I'm this person who is ma'unig. I'm a person of pleasure, u'mafunig, and I'm very delicate in my nature. And when Tosis says over here, iket sar, im loy hayaroichetz, I'm going to be in tsar, I'll be in pain if I don't wash myself. And therefore, because of that, the only reason why a person is not allowed to wash himself as an oval is because of ta'anug, because of pleasure. And you can't wash your hair because of pleasure when a person is in an avelis. However, since I'm not doing it for the pleasure, said Rabbi Gamliel, I'm just a very finicky person, and I feel icky when I don't take a shower. Therefore, I'm allowed to do it. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, Ukeshemeis Tavi Avdai, when Rabbi Gamliel's servant Tavi when passed away, Kibalav Tanchumin. He accepted upon himself condolences. People came and they consoled him over the loss of his Eved, who was a non-Jew. Amalo Talmidav. So a student said to Rabbi Gamliel, Loi lemadetanu Rabbeinu, didn't you teach us Shem mekalim tanchumin al avadim, that the person doesn't accept condolences over one of the non-Jewish slaves? Amalahan, he said, yes. However, Tevi Avdi Kishar Kol Avadim Kashaya. Tevi, my servant, was not like all the other non-Jewish slaves in the world. He's what's called kosher. He was an upstanding Eved, and therefore it behooves me to accept the condolences from others. We'll see in the Gemara later. Chasan. If a chassan wants to read the Kriya Shema on the first night, he's allowed to read the Kriya Shema. Rabbi Gamliel adds these words. No, it's not so simple. Not everyone who wants to express their inner piety is entitled to express their piety and read the Shema on the first night of the Chasana, as we will see. Says the Gemara, my time, the Rabbi Gamliel. What's the reason of Rabbi Gamliel? Why he said that he's allowed to wash himself in hot water? Because there seems to be a prohibition of washing. So Kasavar, he holds Aninos Laila the Rabbanan. This, that a person has to uphold of the laws of Aninus. Now there are two states of mourning. There's when the person dies. When the person first dies, it's called being an oinen. A person is in a state of deep mourning, and then there's the aval, which comes really after the burial. So over here, he's learning that even though aninus really is only during the time that the body is not buried yet, but the Rabbanan came along and they said that you have to extend the period of aninus, of this initial mourning period, for the entire 24-hour period. So even though it's only really going to last up until the time of burial, but the Rabbanan said, no, you're going to continue with it, meaning midaraisa, Torah speaking, it's only going to last until the burial. But the Rabbanan came along and they said, you're going to keep the laws of aninus even for the entire 24-hour period. So Rabbi Gamliel said the following. He said, aninus laila de Rabbanan, the aninus, this first level of mourning that a person is obligated to keep at night, that's only with the Rabbanan. Because it says the end kayomar, like the pasuk itself says, like the bitter day. It's a bitter day, which means anin is only really during the day before the body is buried. But once that the body is buried, aninus ends. But the Chachamim came along and they decreed that you have to keep it 24 hours. Ubamakam istinis, says Rabbi Gamliel, in a case where someone is an istinis like me, I'm this finicky person, lagazu be Rabbanan, the rabbis never decreed that you have to be so strong in the halacha of aninus, and therefore I'm allowed to go and take a shower. Ukeshemeis Tevi Avdai, when the servant of Rabbi Gamliel, Tevi, when he died, so he accepted condolences. Tanu Rabbanan avadim v'shvachais ein odim aleim b'shura ve'ein odim aleim birchas avelim v'tanchumi avelim. We know that when it comes, if you have a non-Jewish servant and they die, we don't do b'shura. We don't make these lines after the funeral where everybody says Hamakim Yinachim ve'ein odim aleim birchas avelim. People don't say the blessing of mourners v'tanchumim, and we don't do avelim. We don't do condolences. So that we know. So what's going on in our Mishnah? Maisu Meisa Shivchasa Shrebi Elazar. So there's a story which took place. The Shivcha, the maidservant of Rabbi Eliezer, passed away. Nechzu Talmidav Lenachamai. And the students of Rabbi Eliezer, they came to his house to console him, to be Menachem Aval. So Kevan Shiroi Sam. So Rabbi Eliezer saw them coming towards him. Ali, he went up into the attic. He was trying to escape them. He didn't want to accept their condolences. And they came after him. Nichnas lan piloin. So he went into some kind of antechamber. Nichnas achrav. They came after him also. Nichnas the trachlin. He went into the reception room, I guess where he used to receive people, the open room in the house. Nichnas achrav. They came after him as well. So Amar lehem. So he said to his students over here, Kimidumani, it appears to me, Shatem nichvim bepaishrim, I thought that you would be burnt by warm waters. But now I see you can't even be burnt by hot waters. Meaning he was telling them, I saw you coming. I know why you're coming, because you want to be menachem over. You want to console me for the loss of my maidservant. But you don't console a person for the loss of a maidservant. So I saw you coming, so I went up to the attic. I thought you would have got the hint, stay away, don't come and console me. But you didn't get the hint, so I went to another room, and you followed me there also. I went to another room, you followed me. So I see over here, I'm pouring scalding water on you, and you still don't get the point. So what can I do? But the halach is, didn't I teach you? Didn't I teach you that you don't console a person who lost his maidservant? So then what do we say about a maid servant or a slave who ends up dying? Meaning, let's say they were a very faithful servant and they served you for many, many years. So people come along and they say nothing? That's it? It's like a dog? What do we say over here? So no, by the dogs they say Kaddish these days. Kishem. And that's really what it says. Just like you say to a person whose ox dies or his donkey dies, you say to that person, may Hashem replace your loss. You say the same thing to a person about his eved, his slave, or his maidservant. Hashem should replace your loss. So you do say something, but you're not menachem over. You don't give condolences. Tanya idach, we learned elsewhere, avadim u'shvachos ein maspidin oison. You do not say eulogies for them. Rabbi Yossi Omer im eved kashahu, but if the eved was kosher, if he was an outstanding citizen, oimim alav, then you can say havi ish toiv. And Rashi says, what does it mean? Havi, you like groan. Oi, what a good man this eved was. What a great person he was. So the Gemara says, Ish toiv v'neman, he was trustworthy. V'nena miyagia, and he also benefited from his own hard work. So Amr Lo, so they said back to Rabbi Yossi, Im Kain, if that's what you're going to say about an eved, about a non-Jewish slave, what did you leave over to say for the good Jews of this world? You groaned, "Oi, what a good man! How trustworthy! He benefited from the work from his own hard work." So what are you going to say about a kosher yid? You just said the greatest praise about this person. So he was saying you should be careful. Don't praise the avadim. Don't praise the slaves too much. We only call 3 individuals in history the avos, the forefathers of Klal Yisrael, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And we only call the matriarchs 4 women, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. Avos, my timer. What's the reason that we only have 3 people who call the avos? Meaning, why don't we call all of the tribes of all of the children of Yaakov Avinu? They were also great people. Why don't we also call them our avos, our forefathers? How come only Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? My time, layman mishum the layadinan imiruven kayasinan imishimin kayasinan. If the reason is because we don't know which one of the tribes we come from, meaning Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, for sure we know that we come from. But did we come from Ruvain? Did we come from Shimon? Do we come from Asher? Do we come from God? We don't know, so therefore it's not right for us to call them our forefather, because maybe not really our forefather. If that's why you don't want to call them forefathers, then imahas nami lo yadinan. Also by the matriarchs, we don't know. You don't know. Are you a descendant of Rachel? Or are you a descendant of Leah? You don't know that because they all had their children. So you don't know which one of the children came from Leah. You know they all came from Yaakov, that's for sure. But you don't know if they came from Rachel or Leah. So if the reason you don't want to call the avos all the children is because you don't know which one you come from, so then we have the same problem by the imahas, by the matriarchs over here. Rachel and Leah were the 2 wives of Yaakov. Nobody knows exactly which, if they come from Rachel or from Leah, so how can you call them your mothers? So Ella Adhacha Chashivi. So the Gemara says, no, until these 3, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and Rachel, and Sarah for Rachel, Leah, the Chashivi, they were more chashiv, they were more important. They accomplished, I guess we'll say that they accomplished more, they did more, they laid down the yesodis, the foundations of what our religion is. To Tefei, but more than that, Loi Chashivi, they don't have the same chashiv, the same value, the same importance, and therefore that's why we only call Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov the patriarchs, and we only call Sarah, Rachel, and Leah the matriarchs. Tanya idach avadim ushvachais ein karnasan abba ploni v'ima plonis. Yeah, we have an interesting halacha over here. If you have slaves and you have maid servants, so you should not call them Abba, father, or Ima, or mother. Now, why? What's the problem over there? I mean, they have children. They are an Abba. They are an Ima. Why are you not allowed to call them that? So the Mefarshim explain that the reason is that if somebody will hear you call to your servant Abba, or they'll hear you call your maid servant Ima, maybe someone's going to think that the reason that you're calling them that is because that's really your father and it's really your mother. And then people will start questioning your yichus, they'll question your lineage. What, he comes from a slave? So therefore you shouldn't call them that by name. However, when it came to the slaves of Rabbi Gamliel, they used to refer to them as Abba Jack and Ima Kathy. They used to call them by those names. How come they were allowed to? So the Gemara says, Maisa Lister, you're coming to slug up. You're coming to argue on what we just said before. No, Mishum the Chashivi, because since that the house of Rabbi Gamliel was very well known and it was a very chashiva family, nobody would ever have any doubt that nobody would ever suspect that when the children or the people in Rabbi Gamliel's house were calling the servants mother or father, that they were saying that you're my mother and you're my father, because everybody knew that Rabbi Gamliel and his family were illustrious, and therefore they knew for sure they didn't come from maidservants. Okay, Amar Rabbi Lazar, what does it mean in the pasuk when it says, Ki avarechecha b'chaye b'shimcha esa kapai? I'll bless you all of my life. In your name, I will lift my hands to you. Kain avarecha b'chaye, when it says, I will bless you all of my life, Zukri Shema, that's referring to the Shema. And the Mefarshim say, what does it mean over there? That Kriya Shema is a way in which a person is going to fulfill his obligation of learning Torah in the morning and the night. And therefore I'm going to bless you all of my life, since all Kihem Chayenu, my life really is Torah. By saying the Shema, I'm blessing you all of my life. B'shimcha esakapai, in your name I will lift my hands. Zu tefillah, that's referring to prayer. Person raises their hands in tefillah. V'ima oisa kain, if a person does this, he spends his days saying Shema and davening. So Allah, Hakasav Omer, the pasuk says about him, just like the fats and the abundance of the fields satisfied my nefesh, satisfied my soul. I mean, you're going to be a very satisfied individual as a result of being involved in saying Shema every day, and you're davening as well. Not just that, besides that, you have another benefit. You're going to inherit two worlds, this world and the world to come. Like it says, like it says, my lips, rananus, which is a plural language over there, ranus, they sing Yahalel Pi and they praise Hashem, which means when your lips are busy singing Kriya Shema and singing tefillah and saying songs of prayer, so therefore you're going to inherit the two worlds, Olam Hazeh, this world and the world to come. Rabbi Elazar. Okay, now this Gemara over here is going to extend to the other one. We'll see how far we get, but basically the Tanoim and Amoraim, when they would finish their Shemon Esrei, so they would insert extra words that were not written in the Matbeah Shel Tefillah, in the phraseology, in the text of the Tefillah. Because as we know, that whenever a person davens, it can't just be by rote. You can't just keep davening the same words over and over and over again. A person has to infuse chiddush, newness into his davening. So in order to show that, they would add these extra words that were not part of the Shemon Esrei. So Rabbi Lazar, Bas the Messiah Slusei, after he finished his Shemon Esrei, Amahachi would say the following: He ratza milfanecha, Hashem Elokeinu, may it be the will before you, Hashem our God, shetishkom b'pureinu, that it should dwell in our lot. Ava v'achva v'shalom v'reyus, love and brotherhood and peace and reyus and friendship. V'tarbig v'uleinu v'talmidim, you should extend our boundaries with more students. V'tatzlich seifeinu achris v'tikva, and that which we've been hoping for all of our lives, the goodness and the blessing, all of that, we should be successful in achieving that at the end. V'tosim chalkeinu b'gan Eden, place our portion in Gan Eden. V'tigneinu b'chaver toiv, let us acquire good friends, v'yetzer toiv, and a yetzer toiv, a good inclination, ba'olamecha, in your world, v'nashkim b'nimsa, We should come to be able to be able to have the desire to see Shemecha, your name, and before you should come the very great pleasure of our souls, of ourselves before you, Hashem. So this was his plea, his tefillah to Hashem. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan, after he finished his prayers, he would say the following words: may it be the will before you, Hashem our God. Look at our busha, our shame, and look at the bad things that are going on. Rashi says, see the things that are wrong, the bad things that are befalling us, and dress yourself in mercy. You should cover yourself in your eyes and your strength. Wrap yourself in your chasidus, in your piety. And you should gird yourself with your chanina, with the the favor that we will find. And you should come before you. We should come before you we should come before you, and your midah of goodness and humility should be what is shining down on us. So all of these very deep desires that the sages had. Rabbi Zera, Basa the Messiah Slusei Amahachi. When Rabbi Zera would finish Manesva, he would say the following words: Yiratzam milfanecha Hashem Elokeinu, may it be you will Hashem be our God. Shelo nechta, we shouldn't sin. V'lo neivosh, we shouldn't be embarrassed. V'lo nikolim, we shouldn't be shamed mi'aviseinu or mi'yosim mi'aviseinu more than our forefathers were. Rabbi Chia, Basa the Matzli. Amahachi, Rabbi Chi would say, "He Ratzai Milfanecha Hashem Elokeinu, may it be your will, Hashem. Shedei Torascha Umunasenu. Your Torah should be our Umunasenu, should be our livelihood, it should be our job. Ve'al Yidveli Beinu, let our hearts not be in pain. Va'yechishchu Einenu, don't let our eyes go dark. Let us be involved in the light of Torah all day long." Rav Basat Slusei Amahachi would say the following: "He Ratzai Milfanecha Hashem Elokeinu, let it be your will, Hashem. Shetiten lanu chaim aruchim, chaim shel shalom, give us a long life. Chaim shel shalom, a life of peace. Chaim shel tova, a life of goodness. Chaim shel bracha, a life of blessing. Chaim shel parnasa, a life of parnasa, of livelihood. Chaim shel chilas, someone's health. Chaim shel yesh bem yiras chet, a life that has fear of sin. Chaim shem ben bushu chlima, a life that doesn't have embarrassment and shame. Chaim shel oishav, kavod, riches and honor. Chaim shel devanu avas Torah v'yirah Shemayim, a life that we have love of Torah and the fear of heaven. Chaim shetimali lanu es kol mishalas libenu tova, a life that you fulfill all the desires of our heart for good. Where is this from? Rosh Chodesh, when we bench the new month, when we make the blessing on the new month. Those are the words that we say.
Here first.
Well, it seems that this is what he would say at the end of davening, and we took those words and we said that it's what we need to hear for the up and coming month. So we used his words for that bracha. Rebbe Basat Slusei, Rebbe after his davening, Amahachi would say the following: He Ratzam Lefanecha Hashem Elokeinu v'Elokei Avoseinu, may it be your will, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the God of our forefathers, Shetatzilenu me'azei panim, save us from people that are brazen. Ume azus panim, save us from ourselves from being brazen. Me adam ra, from a bad person. Me pega ra, from a bad event. Me yetzer ra, from the yetzer hara. Me chaver ra, from a bad friend. Mishkan ra, mishachin ra, from a bad neighbor. Umi satan amashchis, from the satan itself that comes to destroy. Umi din kasha, from a very hard judgment. Umi bal din kasha, from a hard plaintiff or an opponent. Ben shu ben bris, ben sheinu ben bris, whether the guy is a yid or he's not a yid, keep us away from such things. V'afagav the kaimi kitzutze aleya the Rebbe, and even though that Rebbe, who's the one that was quoting over here, he had these guards that were constantly watching over him. The Romans had guards watching over him all the time. He couldn't do anything really. Nevertheless, he never stopped davening that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should protect him, because he understood that tefillah is so powerful that Hashem can do anything. Rav Safra Basad Slusei. Rav Safra, after he would finish davening Shema Yisrael, Shalom. He would say, Hashem, may it be your will. Shetasim Shalom. You should place peace. There is an upper realm and there is a lower realm, and they're parallel. They correspond to each other. Place peace in both the upper worlds and the lower worlds. And the students that are learning your Torah, even though that they are, sometimes they fight with each other, make peace with them. Whether they are learning lishma for the sake of heaven, or they're learning not for the sake of heaven. Anyone that's learning shaloi lishma, not for the right intentions, let it be your will, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that eventually will come to learn your Torah lishma for the right intentions. Let's see one more of you. Rabbi Alexandri, Basad Slusei Amar Achi. Rabbi Alexandri, after Dam, he would say, stand us in the corner of light. Do not put us in the corner of darkness. We want to be where there's light, where there's Shechina, where there's Kedusha, where there's Torah. Don't put us in the darkness of this world, Hashem, please. And don't let our hearts be in pain. And do not let our eyes be darkened by being in that darkened place over there. And there are those who say that it wasn't really Rav Alexandri, it was really Rav Amnuna who said this. And tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem, we will see the famous words of the Rav Alexandri. Shkaya.